Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us once again for today's Sunday's edition, or Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, hosting today's show once again. Up first is the hazardous weather graphics, and again, no watches, warnings, or advisories are out anywhere around the state today. Interior looking good, Panhandle, North Gulf Coast. A little kind of deceptive for the Aleutians, as we've got some storm warnings out for tomorrow for the central Aleutian areas with that system coming eastward across the southern Bering Sea. So storm warnings for Marines, but public warnings, advisories, none at all. Moving on to satellite imagery, you can see the big storm out there coming in towards Shemya this afternoon, and that's bringing gale force winds and rain into the Adak and Atka area this afternoon. And the edge of the Cirrus Shield, just approaching the Pribilof Islands. Otherwise, they had looked like some clearing today, as well as over the eastern Bering Sea up towards St. Lawrence Island. Looked like some sunbreaks were pretty widespread there around Togiak Bay, and also south of the Alaska Peninsula with that northwest flow, clearing it out pretty good. Otherwise, mostly cloudy over interior Alaska with areas of rain and showers that were most numerous over the central and western part of the state, and less numerous with a little bit more sunshine over toward the eastern border there from the upper Tanana Valley or the eastern Alaska Range on up across the eastern upper Yukon Valley. Otherwise, look generally cloudy along the north slope and Arctic coast, and still some clouds and showers and also some clearing today over the southeast coast as the system moved off to the east, and rainfall amounts were not that significant over the Panhandle today. And you can see low pressure there brought some rain to Kodiak Island. That's south there. That'll be pushing eastward and bring a chance of rain to the outer coast of the Panhandle tomorrow. Otherwise, that weak high pressure producing the clearing over the eastern Bering Sea, that'll be shifting eastward tonight and starting to dry it out over the interior areas. But the storm system, about 980 millibar low, again, that bringing gale force winds to the western Aleutians, gusts of 50 miles an hour, and a trough bringing some rain ahead of that system, much weaker trough than the front behind it, in toward Unamak Island and the eastern Aleutians. And looked like the precipitation producing clouds aren't too far behind where this more solid cloud deck is approaching the Pribilofs there, but that precipitation that far out is pretty light, intermittent. And otherwise, again, scattered showers across the Panhandle with some scattered areas of sunshine, and low pressure kept it mostly cloudy and damp over the northwest part of the state, and also for the Seward Peninsula. One of the heavier rainfall amounts, about half an inch falling at Tin City in the last 12 hours, and around a third of an inch fell at Ambler and Indian Mountain there. Otherwise, amounts were much lighter than that, but there was rain and showers that extended northeastward along that front, linking up with a 992 millibar low over the Mackenzie River Bay. And that brought a little bit of moisture to the eastern Arctic coast and north slope into the Brooks Range. But you can see showers are much more isolated over the eastern interior toward the border than they were in the central and western part of the state. And then we got low pressure there southeast of Kodiak Island. Brought a little bit of rain to mostly southern Kodiak Islands that passed by. That's moving off now and drying out. And as we noted, the clearing there on the south side of the Alaska Peninsula. There were still a few scattered and isolated showers right over the Alaska Peninsula associated with that trough. And kind of in a break there for the Panhandle, we'll see for tonight. Still some lingering shower chances, but rainfall begins to increase. A chance of rain late tonight. By tomorrow morning, I think I missed that when I mentioned that earlier. Chance of rain increases along the coast late tonight, not tomorrow afternoon. Otherwise, a trough there will keep showers and areas of light rain going over western Prince William Sound, southern Kenai Peninsula, right up into, well, northern Cook Inlet. Chance of showers throughout the night tonight. Mananuska-Susitna Valley on up to Cantwell and Denali through the pass to Healy. Chance of showers into, looks like, the Fairbanks area. Partial clearing over to the east and up to the northeast there along the Yukon-Porcupine River areas. And then that trough keeps chance of rain, fog, and drizzle there for the eastern Arctic coast and the eastern North Slope. And showers, now that system weakening up over the northwest interior, but that'll keep a chance of showers, cloudy skies in through tonight. There should be even a few showers around the lower Yukon Valley, but generally the Kuskokwim Valley and the central interior on down in toward Bristol Bay will be dry with variable clouds. Otherwise, gale force winds, 40 knots sustained probably here, pushing into the eastern Aleutians with a good shot of rain, moderate, maybe briefly heavy at times along in advance of the front. Conditions quite windy over the central Aleutians tonight, pretty tight gradient with that system, and that extends all the way out to Shimianat too. So that'll keep the gale force winds there going as well, if not storm force winds beginning to develop over the central Aleutians. And for tomorrow, you can see that tight gradient there over the central Aleutians. That's where the 45 to 50 knot winds are expected. Otherwise, gales all the way to the Alaska Peninsula up toward the Pribilofs with that system, wet condition, rain and wind for the Pribilofs, Alaska Peninsula, much of the area north and, well, actually including the eastern Aleutians through tomorrow. And Kodiak, some of that moisture will begin making its way onto the western part of the island by the afternoon. Otherwise, Fognak Island may see some clearing, and Ozinki and those areas with areas of showers and rain. South central Alaska, mostly from Prince William Sound up across the Talkeetnas into the Susitna Valley. And shower chances pretty good there over the Tanana Valley, 40-mile country with a weak trough there. And a little bit of improvement for the eastern Arctic coast, but still a chance of rain as that persistent low over the northwest interior really isn't moving too much. And the front pushes rain into the southern, or into the mostly the central and southern southeast coast. We'll see the heaviest amounts of rain, but chance of rain all the way up to Haines and possibly Skagway, showers over toward Yakutat. And otherwise, not too bad in the North Slope, just low clouds and fog, mostly cloudy skies there. And drying out with diminishing winds now over the western Aleutians. And then on Monday, you can see that low center takes a pretty good jog to the east-southeast. And the front, though, up to the north there, that'll bring wind and rain into Kodiak Island later Sunday night and continuing into Monday. And then we have a trough up along the North Gulf Coast that will bring rain and fog into that area with still maybe some light rain at times, cloudy skies for the Kenai Peninsula and Cook Inlet, and that'll extend down to Kamishak Bay. And showers, pretty good chance of seeing a few showers for the Madawaska-Susitna Valley, Copper River Basin. Some of that could spill into the upper Tanana Valley, but only scattered isolated precipitation of a light variety will occur there. And chance of rain, northern panhandle, showers to the south, and a cold front approaching the Arctic coast will bring rain and increasing winds to those areas, especially during the afternoon from mostly the central Arctic coast back down toward Point Hope. Otherwise, Bering Sea northerly winds look pretty brisk across the Fox Islands there. I'll probably see gusts 50 miles an hour, but diminishing as you head west to just about no wind there out toward Shimei, and that'll lead to some areas of low clouds and fog. Lows tonight, lower 30s, upper 20s, lower 30s. At 29 is at Arctic Village. Otherwise, call it 25 to 32 there for the North Slope and Arctic coast. In the 30s over the central interior, and upper 30s to mid 40s south of the Alaska Range, Copper River Basin in the 30s, 40s for the Panhandle, near 50 there out over the Alaska Peninsula. And for the highs Sunday afternoon, quite chilly up there, near or just barely above freezing for the Arctic coast. Otherwise, mid-30s for the North Slope into the Brooks Range, and then south of the mountains there, lower 50s for the upper Yukon Valley, near 50 in the central interior, down to, say, McGrath and Nikolai, actually all the way to Bethel, and upper 40s along the coast, lower 50s for the Pribilofs, and lower to mid-50s for the Aleutians. And in the 50s for the Panhandle and mid-50s South Central Alaska, Kodiak Island. Lows Monday morning, a little chillier yet. Now a little more 20s showing up, 25 to 30, or in the mid to upper 20s for the Eastern Brooks Range, eastern North Slope and Arctic coast, near 30 on the west side, upper 30s Kotzebue Sound, near 40 along the southwest coast, and 40s for the Bering Sea and the Pribilofs Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, upper 30s or mid 30s to lower 40s, south central Alaska, and mid to upper 40s for the Panhandle, followed by highs near 60 over the southeast coast, and a little warmer over Bristol Bay, 55 to 60, otherwise lower 50s central interior.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather. Quite a zone of IFR there from the northern Bering Sea up across the Seward Peninsula, Brooks Range, and all of the North Slope on out to the Arctic coast and beyond. And then a narrow swath of marginal VFR, Nunivak, St. Matthew Islands, and back into the IFR there from Bristol Bay, Dillingham, Togiak Bay, on out across all of the remainder of the Bering Sea, all of the Aleutians, western Alaska Peninsula, and in toward Kodiak Island with IFR up along the western Alaska Range, and then down across the Talkeetnas into Prince William Sound, and then off the coast of the Panhandle, otherwise marginal there, and some VFR in the eastern interior. And for the afternoon, we're looking at, there we go, marginal VFR continuing for the southeast coast, and IFR, Montague Island there, but marginal for Prince William Sound and the western Alaska Range. On up to the eastern and central Arctic coast, IFR, otherwise marginal for the North Slope. So improvement tomorrow afternoon through much of the central and western interior, and stays IFR, though, over the southern Bering Sea, but improvement there for the far western and southwest Bering Sea and western Aleutians. And for the Monday morning outlook, IFR there, northern Seward Peninsula, Kotzebue Sound into the Kobuk-Selawik Valley areas, almost right down to the Yukon River there, and then pulls back northeastward and becomes thinner as you head across the Brooks Range, marginal for the North Slope, and marginal for most of the Arctic coast. IFR, though, for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound on up across the western Copper River Basin, marginal for Cook Inlet, and VFR, Yukon-Kuskokwim deltas and the lower valleys, as well as Norton Sound, southern Seward Peninsula, stays marginal there for the Panhandle with IFR near Yakutat. And then for the Monday afternoon outlook, VFR there, Adak and Atka, right up to the Pribilofs for the afternoon. Not bad in those areas. Some more IFR, far western Aleutians, IFR, eastern Aleutians, western Alaska Peninsula, marginal Bristol Bay. VFR, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, at least in part, up across a portion of the Kuskokwim Valley, and right on up across the eastern interior. Just a band of marginal VFR possible there from the western Copper River Basin right up to about Eagle. Lingering IFR for the North Gulf Coast, Kodiak Island, and southern Alaska Peninsula. Stays marginal for the Panhandle and marginal for the Arctic coast. Anatuvik starting out IFR, improving to marginal VFR as the day wears on. That trend is also good for Adigan. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR becoming marginal, improving throughout the afternoon, most of these passes. And for Rainy, same trend, IFR becoming marginal. Windy, marginal VFR in the pass with possible IFR south entrance anytime throughout the day. Better could be VFR, possibly, well, will be better out the north entrance into the valley. And for Isabel, IFR becoming marginal. And Mentasta, optimistically, I'll stay VFR there, but any marginal VFR will be mostly near the southern approach into the Copper River Basin. And Tanita, marginal VFR. Portage, marginal with IFR in the eastern entrance, and Chilkoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels, 4 to 10,000 feet there across the western central Bering Sea to the Aleutians, 2 to 4,000 feet. Interior Alaska and the Panhandle, 4 to 6,000 feet. Icing, freezing level 16,000 feet. With the best threat will be with that system in the Bering Sea and the front to the Alaska Peninsula, and that'll be rime icing there, as well as a weaker system off the southeast coast. Have a better threat of icing of the rime variety there as well, and then just areas of potential mixed icing up over the interior. And from there, we'll take a look at the jet stream and the two strong lows there. One up over the northeast Gulf of Alaska has the strongest, pretty good jet, but well to the south, 105 knots, and then 75 knots, some of that affecting the southern Panhandle. Out west, though, you can see 100 to 150 knot jet along and south of the Aleutians with that low northwest of the Fox Islands. And then northwest flow, They're coming across, or westerlies into the Yukon Delta, turn northwest across, say we're Iliamna Lake, Kodiak Island, southern Cook Inlet, 65 knots there. And at 3,000 feet, not too bad over the interior, pretty light, 25 knot winds off the southeast coast. Strongest winds out there along and south of the Aleutians of 50 to 65 knots. And lighter over the northern Bering Sea. Turbulence, 3,000 feet, 32, 65 knot winds around that Bering Sea low. And now for turbulence, moderate chop likely for the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians.
Welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining us once again is our good friend Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska. He is here and has been here many times to talk to us about weather satellites and how those can help Alaskans understand our weather, how we can do better detection, keep more people safe from things even like volcanic ash. But today, Eric, you're going to talk to us a little bit more about weather satellites and how that can keep Alaskans safe and protect our property from wildfire, right?
That's right, Dave. Today's topic is where there's smoke, there's fire. And thanks for having us back again to Alaska
Anytime.
Weather. Well, weather satellites have a lot of different instruments on them. It turns out that the electromagnetic spectrum has a lot going on in it, and only one part of that is visible light, what we see.
Right.
Weather satellites, of course, report that. Today's topic is wildfires.
Okay.
There are some people who say that in Alaska in the summertime, you don't have severe weather. These people are usually from Oklahoma or somewhere. And F5 tornadoes tend not to occur in Alaska.
Right.
People have also said what we do have in the summer. What is Alaska's severe summer weather can be hydrology,
Right.
flash flood and erosion in the mountains and things like that, and fires, wildfires.
Absolutely.
Those were here in 2004, certainly remember that. We've got an example here from 2014. Now, it was a quiet season overall, but in May, down on the Kenai Peninsula, we had a wildfire on the Funny River, and this is a satellite image from a polar orbiter that went right over Alaska, and we can see the plume of smoke coming out of that fire on the Kenai, curling down. It's caught in the wind.
Right.
It goes down toward Kodiak Island, curves around. You can see it circulating around a low pressure system that's in the Gulf of Alaska.
It was a beautiful picture.
Oh my gosh.
Except there was a fire.
There's a fire there. The nice thing is with this satellite image, you can tell where the fire origin is, where the smoke is coming from. And it's a color image. We're looking at the wavelength spectrum of about 0.4 to 0.7 micrometers or microns. That's what the human eye would see. If you were riding on the satellite and looked down, you could see this kind of an image.
Right.
So that's pretty nice. But it turns out there's more to the electromagnetic spectrum than just visible light.
Okay.
You've heard of infrared, ultraviolet, that kind of thing. If we move into longer wavelengths, let's go to one specifically, 3.7 micron.
Okay, 3.7.
Why worry about that one?
Okay.
Well, we've got an example here. 3.7, it turns out, happens to be very sensitive to a certain temperature range, temperatures where fires burn.
Okay.
And so we've got an example zoomed in a little more from that same Funny River fire down on the Kenai Peninsula, and we can see that you get up into a few hundred degrees Fahrenheit,
Right.
and that's where the colors are. We can see there on the Funny River fire to the west and to the east, almost a horseshoe shape there, is not only we're seeing where the fire is in a general sense, but specifically where's the active fire
That is where
front.
it's burning right now.
And it's
Amazing.
3.7 microns is the important temperature there.
Okay.
That's right.
So this is really important to firefighters on the ground, people that are making plans and directing the firefighters on where they need to go and cut the trenches and keep people safe.
You know it. If you want to fight that fire, you got to know where it is.
Okay.
You got to know the leading edge. We've also got a movie loop, nothing quite like animating it in time.
Yeah.
You can see the fire spreading out over time with a succession of film or a succession of images. Now this is one channel, 3.7 micron. You know, we looked at that color smoke image before.
Right.
And that's actually a red, a green, and a blue. That's how you get color imagery. What if you took 3 different wavelengths in the infrared? You went from like 2.2 micron, 1.5 micron, up to 3.7. You mix them together, you get this other kind of color image, which is even a better way to sharply bring out the details of where that leading edge of the fire is.
Okay.
You'll note, though, in the infrared, guess what? We don't see the smoke. That's too bad. And on these movie loops, you can see the clouds go by. These channels can't see through clouds. The lesson is there's no one perfect solution. You got to have the visible, you got to have some of that infrared single 3.7 channel, some of the infrared mixing to help get a different perspective. Another one, we've talked before about a fun channel called the Day-Night Band.
Yes, one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, and in Alaska in the winter, it's great. We've got all this darkness. The Day-Night Band is so sensitive to seeing light. You can see features that otherwise aren't available. Now in Alaska, when you have a forest fire, it tends to be light out all the time.
Right.
It's our summer. But we can go down south to the Rim Fire in California in 2013. Now, okay, it was in California, not Alaska, but Alaskan crews went down to fight that fire, so we can talk about it here on Alaska Weather. Here we have a 3.7 micron channel shot of the rim fire, again, kind of a horseshoe shape, showing that active fire front down there. And then we'll look again to the day-night band, the visible light, and then you can see how the fire is all bright. You can see the active fire front and actually the city lights over there too. Turns out that the cities, while they're active in a social sense, are not really hot in a fire sense. So they don't show up in the 3.7 micron. They're not hot like a fire is, but the fire in the cities look the same from a visible light perspective. And a fun thing here too is that we can see the smoke plume going north from the rim fire on the day-night band. So if we were ever to have, like in 2004 in Alaska, you get dark at night, we still had an active fire season that year.
Right.
That was, you know, that really bad year. The day-night band didn't exist then, but if we had fires now in August, we could use it then. The lesson here is weather satellites, they offer many different wavelengths of light. Some are used for different purposes, and some of these we just looked at tonight are especially helpful here in Alaska to find and to track the behavior of these wildfires so the crews can go out there and do their jobs.
Sure, sure. So a satellite toolbox for the firefighting crews and the fire weather forecasters, and it just underlines how important satellites are, especially for Alaska and our mission for the National Weather Service to protect life and property, and also to enhance the national economy. So wonderful stuff there, Eric. And people can look at pictures like this anytime by going to gina.alaska.edu. You'll find images there all around Alaska at various times of the year, and not just about fire weather, but volcanic ash and smoke and anything else you want to check out. They're always beautiful pictures and always interesting to look at no matter what time of the day. Thanks again for joining us, Eric. We appreciate it and welcome you back anytime. For this edition of Alaska Weather Facts, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider. See you next time. And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, really not much discernible difference from what we had up yesterday. Still well off the coast, well north there over the north of the Chukchi Sea. Beaufort Sea in closer to the shoreline, but still quite a ways off the coast there. And not a lot of change over the next few days. So moving into the coastal water forecast, we've got small craft advisories on the central and north coast of the Panhandle. Central coast looking at south winds 25 knots, turning more easterly as you head north to just flat out east winds at 25 there, south of Yakutat, and south winds at 20 knots on the south coast, with seas the entire stretch of the way looking to be around 7 to 8 feet. And over the southern inside waters, Clarence Strait looking at southeast winds at 20 knots with 4-foot seas, south 15 for Stevens Passage, south winds at 10 for Lynn Canal. That holds through Monday for Lynn Canal. Winds stay light from the south, south 20 knots for Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait with 4-foot seas. Small craft advisories, pretty uniform wind, wave, and direction there for the along the outer coast there. Southeast winds 30 knots with seas at 8 feet. And for Prince William Sound, northeast winds 15 tomorrow and east at 15 for the eastern North Gulf Coast. So those will be westerly at 15 on the western North Gulf Coast, and then east at 10 there for the Barren Islands. Kamishak Bay back to west. So kind of a variable wind pattern there for the western North Gulf Coast into Kamishak Bay at 10 to 15 knots, seas 3 to 5 feet. And Cook Inlet south to southeast at 10 with 2-foot seas. For Monday, increase in the winds, most areas, except Prince William Sound, still east at 15, but small craft advisories there for the North Gulf Coast, 25 knots out of the southeast for Middleton Island, and east at 30 knots for the western North Gulf Coast, Barren Islands, and Kamishak Bay. And for southern Cook Inlet, small craft advisories, northeast winds increasing to 25 knots, seas building to 9 feet. Kodiak Island tomorrow, west 15 knots. And for Bristol Bay, small craft advisory, southeast winds increasing to 25 knots. And for the Alaska Peninsula, small craft advisory, south to southeast winds 30 knots. Gale force gusts on the coming out of the bays on the north side of the peninsula, with seas at 3 to 9 feet. And for Monday, Bristol Bay, northeast winds 30 knots, and northerly winds for the Alaska Peninsula area at 20 to 30 knots with 11 to 14 foot seas. And gale warnings out for Shelikof Strait, northeast 35 knots, seas 15 feet. Otherwise, east side of Kodiak Island, all the way down to Castle Cape, winds will be predominantly from the east at 30 knots with 10 foot seas. And for the Unalaska Island, south winds 30 knots tomorrow. And for Unmak Island, gales and of the 35 to 45 knot variety. We've got storm warnings on the Pacific side of Adak and Atka, and near storm warnings 45 knots on the north side with 20 to 27 foot seas. And then 45 knot westerly winds extend to Amchitka, and then northwest 40 for the western Aleutians. Those will fall down to 20 knots on Monday for the western Aleutians. Small craft advisories hold for Amchitka, and 30 to 35 knot northwest winds continue or will blow for across Adak and Atka. Gale warnings for the eastern Aleutians, north to northwest 35 to 40 knots with 15 to 22 foot seas. And small craft advisories for the southwest coast tomorrow. East winds 25 to 30 knots, high south of Nunivak Island. Gales for the Pribilofs tomorrow, east at 35 knots, seas 12 feet. 30 knots out of the east for St. Matthew Island, northeast 20 for St. Lawrence Island, southwest 15 for Norton Sound. Also swing around to the northeast there for the Sound at 15 knots. Northerlies at 25 knots, St. Lawrence Island, right on down along the Yukon Delta coast to Nunivak Island. Kuskokwim Delta coast northeast at 30. Another gale force wind day for the Pribilofs. Northerlies 35 knots, 25 knots, St. Matthew Island. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast northwest at 20 knots, otherwise on the central coast about 10 knots. And northeast 15 on the west side, and Cape Beaufort to Wales, small craft advisories for north to northeast winds 25 knots. For Monday, 20 knot winds for the out of the north there for the Chukchi Sea, and then southwest 20 knots, central and western Arctic coast, and then west southwest 10 to 15 on the east side. For tonight, system crossing the southern Gulf of Alaska will bring a chance of rain into the coast of the Panhandle and the North Gulf Coast later tonight. Gale force winds, rain push eastward across the eastern Aleutians, Pribilofs reaching the Alaska Peninsula, and rain and showers continue mostly over the northern part of the state. And for tomorrow, that low slides eastward and southeastward on Monday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.